Good morning. This morning I want to talk about something very simple that as Catholics we often hear about and misunderstood can actually hold us back. It can really block us from the whole ministry of reaching out and the ministry of evangelization. And it's called avoiding the occasion of sin. Now, what does that mean? Well, basically, the typical example they will use is that if you are a recovering alcoholic, well, then you shouldn't go to the pub because you're going to see lots of people drinking, you're going to get very tempted, and you're probably or maybe going to pick up a bottle of whiskey and fall back into your old ways. So that's kind of avoiding, if you like, the occasion of sin. However, that thing can be pushed so far that basically we could begin to avoid life altogether. And so sometimes that happens, and so basically sometimes Catholic people find themselves basically cocooned, if you like, in a Catholic bubble, cocooned in the church, cocooned among Catholic friends, and they're afraid. They're afraid to go out, they're afraid to meet other people, because they're afraid that in doing so they might sin. However, in this avoiding the occasion of sin, we never really talk, and that's what the danger is, of the sin of omission. And say, for example, the recovering alcoholic. Now, the recovering alcoholic probably shouldn't go to the pub on his own or on her own. However, if the recovering alcoholic is a prayerful, humble person, there's no reason why the recovering alcoholic couldn't perhaps go to the pub with one or two friends within a certain balance, and if they have a counsellor, if they have some prayer support, through doing that, they will learn how to live life again and they will overcome. And I know many recovering alcoholics who have been clean now or sober for the last 30, 40 years. And you could drink a bottle of whiskey in front of them, you could do what you want in front of them. And yes, they might be a bit tempted, but somehow that's also part of their recovery. And so you see, if we really wanted to avoid the occasion of sin in that context, we might as well all commit suicide this morning. Because every single one of us today, no matter how holy we are, we're all going to do something. We'll either gossip or we'll either talk or we'll either say something or lose our temper with somebody. So what is it all about? Should we just all commit some sort of mass suicide? Well, obviously not. Obviously then, avoiding the occasion of sin is just more about not being stupid. Say, for example, you are a beekeeper. You have to look after bees. Well, you're not going to go out and make honey and not wear a protective bee suit. If you do, you're going to get stung and you might even die. However, if you put on your bee suit, you can go out and you can make honey. And yes, sometimes there will be a hole in the suit and you might get stung. But you're not going to get stung by 1,000 bees, you might get stung by one. And afterwards you'll repair your suit. And so you see, it's like that too in our Christian lives. Jesus is telling us to put on the armour. Put on, first of all, the armour in our hearts of love, of humility, of forgiveness, and surrender to God's will. Because that is the most important armour, the armour actually of love in our hearts. Afterwards, we can put on our other armour, which might include a scapular, holy medals, the crucifix, holy water, etc. Now, with our armour, then Jesus is calling us out. He's calling us out to be disciples, out to be apostles, out to be preachers, out to be teachers, out to be healers. And guess what? He's not promising that we're not going to slip up at times. He's not promising that at times, just like that beekeeper, there won't be a hole in the suit and we won't slip up. But what he is saying, if we slip up, it's only going to be a slip up. It's not going to be a mortal sin type of thing. He's not going to cut us off. Afterwards, just like a soldier in war, we can come back to the infirmary and Our Lady and the soldiers, through the sacraments of the confession and all sorts of things, she can stitch up and heal our wounds, and within a day or two we're out again, evangelizing and bringing the good news and the power of Jesus to the world. So today I would say, yes, there are lots of sins, but don't be so worried about the sin of, or about these occasions of sin, that you're afraid to live your life. Because in that case, it's the sin of fear. It's the sin of doing nothing. It's like that man in the Bible that Jesus spoke of who buried his talents because he was so afraid of the master. And when the master came and saw that he had buried his talents, the master wasn't impressed at all. So remember, God is not a God that's afraid of risk. God made Adam and Eve and Satan and the lot. He knew that half of humanity or more would rebel against him. He still made us. God made Jesus. He took the risk as well with Mary. He's a God that takes risks. He used human beings. Mary could have said no. What if Mary had committed a sin? What even if he's in earthly life, Jesus had committed a sin? Would the entire Trinity, for example, have lived in eternal disorder or dysfunction? I don't know. But God is a creative God, and He does creative things, He does risky things, and He sends us out. But He sends us out with prayer and with armor. And yes, we might be trembling just like Moses was trembling as he had to go to talk to Pharaoh, but guess what? He did it anyway. So today, look, my message is very simple. Trust in the power of the Holy Spirit, trust in the protection of the Holy Spirit, and go out, make disciples, spread the word of Jesus, go out to the pubs and the clubs and the places where the people are lost, bring the good news of Jesus, the power of Jesus, the power of prayer to these sort of places. Don't be one bit afraid, and don't be so afraid of committing a sin that ultimately you do nothing and you commit the biggest sins of all. So thanks for watching, have a super day, and let's make lots of disciples for Jesus.